In this video, we're going to talk about unemployment. I don't think there is a more apt time to talk about this chapter than right now when we are seeing a global pandemic and the repercussions that that pandemic would have on so many economies around the world. We're already estimating that the per month unemployment rate is going to rise substantially, and about anywhere between 1 million to 2 million people per month will be out of work. So this is an important topic, and of course, when we think about a job loss, this is a very distressful event in anyone's life, and this is also very stressful for the family of anyone who is getting unemployed. Typically, this is going to lead to lower standards of living. That's number one. It also causes a lot of uncertainty about the future regarding expenditures, finances, building wealth, etc. And lastly, it also can lead to reduced self-esteem. So when you are employed, you have a purpose-driven life, and when you become unemployed, this can really hamper your self-esteem. So the idea here is that when we think about a country's standard of living in economics, we are always concerned about that. If you think about a country's standard of living, typically that standard of living goes up when more people are employed in the economy or more people are at work. So if more people are working, this would mean that our unemployment is low. And if unemployment is low, that's going to lead directly to raising a country's living standards. So in this chapter, we are going to talk about two different types of unemployment. One is going to be a more long-run phenomena, which is called the natural rate of unemployment, and the other is going to be talking about short-run fluctuations in the unemployment rate, which we refer to as cyclical unemployment. So when we think about the natural rate of unemployment, this is the amount of unemployment that a country normally experiences. So in the long run, there is some sort of unemployment that is inevitable. We can't avoid it. And that is what is referred to as the natural rate of unemployment. But when we think about the short run, we talk about cyclical unemployment. This is typically the year-on-year fluctuations around the natural rate. Of unemployment. And these fluctuations are typically related to booms, which is a period of a lot of economic activity or an expansion, booms, and recessions, which is a period of stagnation and hardship. So when we think about cyclical unemployment, we're basically saying that perhaps if this is fluctuating around natural rate of unemployment, the cyclical unemployment is going to be lower than the natural rate if we were in a boom or in a good period of economic expansion. And this is going to be above the natural rate of unemployment if we were in a recession or in a period of stagnation. So the idea again here is that any deviation from the natural rate of unemployment is called cyclical unemployment. But we'll talk about what factors affect either of these types of unemployment. Let's try to talk about how do we measure unemployment. And typically, in each country, there's going to be a different institution that is going to be responsible for measuring unemployment rates. But in the United States, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, now you're familiar with this, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which belongs to the Department of Labor, they conduct a very large survey called the Current Population Survey. And in that, they are interviewing or surveying about 60,000 US households. And these households are representative of the US population. Okay, and when they conduct the survey, of course, there are a lot of questions that the interview is going to entail, but the data that they collect and report is going to talk about various aspects of the labor market, after all. So we have different types of employment that is reported. We have the length of an average work week for Americans. We have the duration of unemployment. How long do people remain unemployed on average? All of these different types of statistics are reported in this survey. What we want to focus on in this chapter is how do we get to the unemployment rate? So when we look at the news, we listen to media and we take a look at numbers, we are usually given a statistic which is sort of like a percentage. And they'll say, well, the United States has 3.5%, or 3.5% is the United States unemployment rate. So we want to understand how do we get to that number and what does that mean for us after the survey is conducted. So let's think about this. When the BLS conducts the survey, it places each adult that is 16 and over into one of the three categories that I will describe below. Now, think about this rectangle here as everyone who is what we call in the adult population. So anyone who is 16 and over who's interviewed in this household survey or in this current population survey is going to be in that rectangle. Okay, why do we say it's 16 and over? Because those are the individuals who are legally permitted to work. Okay, so anyone who's 16 and over is in this box. Okay, so this entire box is the adult population. Now we're going to segment or categorize this box into three different areas. The first area is going to be everyone who is employed. So we'll talk about who falls into this category, but this is anyone who is a paid employee, who is working in their own business or is working in a family business, even if they're unpaid. And this includes both full-time and part-time workers. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about this. The other category that people could fall under, or anyone who's 16 and over could fall under, is called the unemployed category. And this category, people who are not employed but were looking for work and had tried to find employment during the last 4 weeks are included. Okay, and so anyone who is also waiting to be recalled for a job from which they had been laid off would also be included in this unemployed category. So together, these employed and unemployed people, so employed plus unemployed people, are called an economy's labor force. So labor force is basically people who are working part-time or full-time, or people who are looking for work in the last, or have looked for work in the last 4 weeks, but were unsuccessful in finding a job. So we're left with this third category here, which is this lower rectangle here, and we call this category anyone who doesn't fit into the top two categories, and that is not, they are not in the labor force. Okay, so let's try to understand who is counted as an employed person. So an employed person could be anyone who is a paid employee, anybody who worked in their own business, so owner of a business, even a person who is an unpaid worker in a family business is employed. So in other words, anybody who is doing full-time or part-time work. And also people who are working so in other words, who were working but had jobs from which they were temporarily absent. And this could be because they're sick or on vacation, or there could be like bad weather conditions or other extenuating circumstances. Okay, so these are all the individuals who are 16 and over who are counted as employed. So let's take a look at who is then unemployed. This is what we want to focus on, but we want to have an understanding of who all is counted as in the adult population. So unemployed, this category includes obviously people who are not employed, but were available for work and tried to find a job or were looking for a job in the last 4 weeks. Okay, so there's various types of unemployment rates, but we're going to focus on the official unemployment rate, and this is what that looks at. It looks at anyone who was looking for a job in the last 4 weeks. So this is also going to include people who are waiting to be recalled to a job from which they had been laid off. Also, people who are waiting to be recalled from a job, recalled to a job from which they were laid off. Okay, so our last category is anyone who is not in the labor force. And this category is going to include those who fit neither of the first two categories, such as full-time students. Now, if you're a full-time student and you're working full-time, which is possible at SS State, you're not going to be counted in this category. Okay, you're still going to be counted as an employed person. So if you're a full-time student, you're not working, then you are not in the labor force. So full-time students and homemakers and retired folks. Okay, all of those are going to fall in this category. Now, what we might be interested in is looking at two different types of statistics that tell us about the health of the labor market. So two statistics that tell us about the health of the labor market. The first one is the official unemployment rate. So we are going to call this unemployment rate. This is number one, unemployment rate. And this is going to be equal to the number of people who are unemployed divided by the number of people in our labor force times 100%. Okay, and so you could rewrite this as the number of unemployed divided by the number of employed plus the number of unemployed times 100%. If you just want to give it some, if you want to abbreviate this, you can say number of unemployed divided by the number of unemployed plus the number of employed times 100%. Okay? And you can switch out the E and U if you like to stay consistent. Okay, I like to write it like this. Okay, so in other words, what you're doing is you're saying, well, unemployment rate is just measuring the percentage of the total adult population, the percentage of the total labor force that is unemployed, okay? The next statistic we're going to be looking at is called the labor force participation rate. And this measures the percentage of the total adult population of the United States that is in the labor force. So the labor force participation rate equals everyone who is in the labor force, which is in our numerator, we have everyone who's employed plus everyone who's unemployed. And then in the denominator, we have our entire adult population. Okay, so this is our labor force. Okay, and this is measured as the number of people who are employed plus the number of people who are unemployed. And this is the adult population, which is the size of that entire rectangle that we were talking about earlier. And then times 100%. So this is telling us the fraction of the adult population that chose to participate in the labor market.